I was supposed to film with artillery crews today. I was supposed to go into an area that I will not disclose for obvious reasons because I might go back in the future, but I was stopped from going back to this area after my second time attempting to go and film with these artillery crews because of how unbelievably heavy the shelling has been in the Kharkiv Oblast recently. And I'm not talking about the city of Kharkiv. I've been in the city of Kharkiv all day. I haven't heard any explosions. There's been air raid sirens throughout the day, but there hasn't been any shelling. I haven't seen any rockets hit the city while I've been here. So I was unable to go out there because of how heavy the shelling is, and there being a lot of concern amongst the crew about the shelling either staying as intense as it is or even possibly getting more intense. And I knew it was legit because the crew that I was going to go visit with this time, they're a little bunkers, right? If I'm being completely honest with you. Some units, they're a lot like, by the book. And other units, it feels like it was made up of every class clown you could cram into a single unit, and then you deployed it into the field and you gave them an artillery gun, right? I'm not saying that they're bad at their job. I'm just saying these guys take risks, and these guys have fun, right? That's the only way I know how to put it. Anyway, I was stopped from going, and I was very frustrated. But the more I read about the reports that were coming out today, the more I understood as to why I didn't get to go to the artillery crews. And the big headline that seemed to ring out across all the networks about the Kharkiv Oblast today was the fact that Russia is amassing 100,000 soldiers as it seeks a breakthrough in the Kharkiv region. Now, it isn't just 100,000 Russian soldiers. It's also 900 tanks and 555 artillery guns. And I know some people are just going to dismiss this as Russian propaganda, but from the shelling that I've had reported to me from these crews and from the attacks that are going on in the Kharkiv Oblast, with the Kharkiv Oblast and the Luhansk Oblast, this area of the country being the one area of the country where the Russians are still attacking, I don't think this is so crazy. I mean, think about it for a moment. Putin has taken L after L after L after L, with the only W he took being Bakhmut, a city of relatively low strategic importance, but immense symbolic importance. And now the Ukrainians have gotten the high ground outside of Bakhmut again. The Russians have not dug in deep, and their positions are not heavily fortified to the extent, say, the Zaporozhye Oblast and front line is heavily fortified. They just haven't had the time, and they haven't put in the resource commitment. And so the Ukrainians have taken back kilometers of territory surrounding Bakhmut and even took some heights, some high territory, which they can use to shell some of the surrounding areas. As the Ukrainians, hopefully, at least to them, they want to take it back. They want to take Bakhmut back. And that would be extremely humiliating for the Kremlin. And with the offensive going on around Bakhmut against them, the counteroffensive from the Ukrainians, even if it's localized, the ongoing counteroffensives in Zaporozhye, which is bringing about more and more casualties, with the intense shelling the Ukrainians putting out, really thinning out the Russian lines. With I saw like journalists from Rybar today, a Russian-affiliated media outlet, talking about that a lot of Russian soldiers in the Zaporozhye front line, they're not getting rest. They're not getting sleep. They're not rotating out. There's not more troop commitments going to Zaporozhye. And this has created concern that there could legitimately be a breakthrough. But with all of these problems taken in the mind of Putin, taken to Putin, assuming that Putin knows about this, he still needs political victories in order to say, hey, look, I mean, they might be attacking in the Bakhmut area in Zaporozhye, and they might have done the Kharkiv counteroffensive and the Kherson counteroffensive. We failed to take Kiev, but don't worry, we're marching to liberate Luhansk, and we're still going to liberate the Donbass. That is still a goal of the Russian government. I think a lot of people don't realize this. Some people think they've dug in everywhere. Again, Luhansk and Kharkiv, these oblasts, they're still attacking, they're still on the offensive, and the Russians still have every intention of conquering all of the Donbass. Not only Bakhmut, but also Kramatorsk, a very major city, a larger city than Bakhmut that I've been to, which is a fortress, and they can't take head on. I'm just telling you this right now. It's impossible for the Russians to take it head on. But if they were to get success with the Kharkiv counteroffensive, it might get a little easier to take it back. And let me show you why. You see all this green territory? This is all the area that was taken back by the Ukrainians during the Kharkiv counteroffensive. A lot of different units, like regiments like Kraken and other units, participated in it. It was a very big shock, and it led to the liberation of Izium, which uncovered the largest mass grave in Europe since the Yugoslav genocides, and a ton of other atrocities, but also liberated a lot of territory. Now, the Russians very much want to recapture Kupiansk. They very much want to recapture Limon, and they very much want to capture, eventually, Izium back. And the reason why they want to do this is not only because they want to just, conquer territory, and they like to be within striking distance of Kharkiv. The big reason they want to do this is not only to capture all of the Luhansk Oblast, because they still currently don't control all of it, but they could use Izium and Kupiansk, which are logistical hubs used for resources, to launch attacks towards Kramatorsk. Because if you were attacking Kramatorsk from this direction, you got to hit that thing head on, man. And after 10 months of slamming your head into the wall in Bakhmut, a city pre-war population, we're talking like 50,000, 60,000 people. Kramatorsk has a lot more people than that. Actually, can we look up the Kramatorsk population at the moment? It was a big city when I visited it. Kramatorsk. Let's see. We're talking about a city of 157,000 people. So we're talking a city double to triple the size of Bakhmut in population, in density, that they've been building up the defenses in for months, for well over a year. When I visited a year ago, they were digging trenches, they were putting up fortified positions, and I haven't visited since then, but I can only assume that they've continued to build up the defenses in Kramatorsk. So taking that thing head on, impossible. But by taking Kupiansk and taking Izium and taking these locations, not only could they try to encircle or flank Slovansk, but then eventually Kramatorsk, and to them uniting the Donbass under Russian occupation. That is their goal. That is something that would be politically beneficial for Putin, and Putin would be able to turn to his people and say, look, I conquered all this land. Look at that. See, all of this death and destruction wasn't completely pointless. Please do not collapse my regime. So that is the goal that the Russians have in mind. Will they be able to succeed? Well, today I talked to the soldiers who are going to be defending the Kharkiv Oblast. I talked to some people in Kraken, which is a nationalist regiment within the Ukrainian military that was founded in 2022 out of football ultras and an offshoot from Azov that has now grown into a much larger organization. They were heavily involved in the liberation of much of Kharkiv, and they seem to believe that they're ready, that they are more ready than they were at the start of the war, that they've dug in, that they know what to expect, that they're preparing with equipment, and that they're dug in, ready to take on the Russian attacks. Hopefully they're right, but I have no reason to doubt them. It's going to be a while till they even get anywhere close to Izium, if they can get past Kupiansk and these other locations, which is far from guaranteed. It's in fact going to be an extremely difficult task, because the Ukrainians know the strategic importance of all these locations that they liberated. And if these soldiers want to do anything, it's protect the territory that they themselves liberated, because there's an emotional connection there as well as a strategic connection there. So the Russians have a hard task ahead of them. One last thing, though, I do want to say, I've seen some Osen accounts, and I'm not the first person to complain about this on Twitter. I've seen some Osen accounts coming out, like Osen Defender, saying, hey, this is a big attack on the city of Kharkiv. They're preparing these 100,000 troops, 900 tanks, and 555 artillery guns to take the city of Kharkiv. We have no reason to believe that. We have been given no inclination from that, about that, from Ukrainian officials. This account says that Ukrainian officials said that. Ukrainian officials did not say that. Ukrainian officials specifically said that the Russians are amassing troops to attack the Kharkiv Oblast, not the city. They might send rockets at the city, but I think the Russians have gotten the idea that they're not going to be conquering Kharkiv probably ever, but at least in their mind, not anytime soon. So I just wanted to set the record straight that they're not marching on the city of Kharkiv. As far as we know, the odds are much more that they want to capture the territory that was liberated recently, late last year, by Kraken and all these other organizations, and then use it as a launching off point to attack Slovansk and Kramatorsk. That seems to be, I think, the most logical path. Anyway, that's all I have to say about it. But I did want to cover it, so. And it's now been covered. Hallelujah.